Hello! Hi, I'm Becca, and this is my BookTube. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're watching this video after watching a previous video. Welcome if you are new here. Today, I had originally planned for this video to be my March-April recap since it would be the first May video that I'm posting. But I really want to take time to kind of like write down my thoughts and have a good solid chunk of recording time to record that video. And this one I'm recording really late. Normally this video would have posted on Monday and it's now Wednesday. So I am not only late posting it, I am very late recording it. On Friday, I left for Saratoga Springs to go to a bachelorette weekend for my friend that got me into the ACOTAR series, and it was this like very fun, bookish themed bachelorette weekend. All of us in the bridal party that had been there except for one person had been influenced to read A Court of Thorns and Roses, essentially by our friend slash family member, because there were like cousins and people there too. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I got from that bachelorette weekend. The first thing, these fun totes. One of our bridesmaids, with help of another family member, made these awesome cute little tote bags, and it says Sarah's Book Club because our friend is named Sarah. And then in the book here it has all of our individual names and the year. It says Saratoga Springs, and it's super cute and fun. And inside there, everybody's bag was 2 bookmarked. I'm using one of them already. This is one of the ones that I got. Very pretty. One of the things that we did on the bachelorette weekend as part of our festivities, fun things to do, was we went and we were wandering around Saratoga Springs, and like with the intent of going to a specific place, but we got to go to 2 different used bookstores. One of them was inside of a old bank, like old bank. There was like a vault and everything. It was very, very cool, and it was very funny because when you first walk in and from the front, it seemed like this like singular room, but every time you went down to a door thinking, oh, this one's just going to lead to one other room, it led to like a hallway that had like 4 rooms, and it was expansive and it was amazing. I didn't stack the books in order, so I'm just going to tell you the other used bookstore that we went to was inside the Saratoga Springs Public Library. Now most public libraries do like regular book sales. I know the ones, my local ones, will do like 2 book sales a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. They're usually run by Friends of the Library, and so they're usually kind of like a one-time event. They're not a continuous thing. At my library, we do have a bookshelf set up right outside of the like main library area in the entrance foyer, with books that are essentially from the library book sale that you can peruse, and then if you grab one to buy, you just go to the front desk and you buy it. But the book sale is a much bigger event. But this book sale was an actual like standing store that was inside the library. You go in and the bookstore is in there, and it had a lot of great used books. And that one was much more difficult for me to leave without buying stuff that I wanted. I think because that one was run by the library, so it had a lot more current books, a lot more books that I was interested in. I'll show you the books in just a second. The one other thing that I wanted to show you for my ACOTAR enthusiasts and fans of Prithian, we went back to the Airbnb after dinner Saturday night, and we did a paint and sip, but it wasn't guided as most usually are. We just had the picture and we were all just kind of like free-forming it, and some people really did a spectacular job. I was really, really impressed by a lot of the artwork. Not so much impressed with my own, but I will show you. This is what it looked like. This is Remiel, and then these are the stars that are part of the thing, and then this is Valaris, the city of starlight. It was not supposed to look like this. I could probably show you, like, this is what the picture was that I was working off of. So, I mean, yeah. I literally, while I was painting this and seeing how bad I was doing, literally texted my husband and said, I paint with words. So it's okay that I'm not great at this. I have other skills and talents. Book haul time. This is my Wordle bag that I made my dad buy me a couple years ago because they sell it at a bookstore in the area in Texas where he lives. And him and I are Wordle buddies, so I bugged him to buy it for me. Okay, I guess I'm gonna start with the bigger books just so I can stack them easier. This one I do know I got at the library bookstore, the Once and Future Witches. I feel like I have seen this book around, but I don't have like a solid memory of where I saw it. I do, this says it's by Alex E. Harrow, author of The 10,000 Doors of January, which I do have. Where is it? I have right here. This is an ARC that I actually got from our library back in like 2017 or 2018. It was during one of our summer reading programs. I did the adult summer reading program and won a prize, so that was the prize that I picked, and I haven't read it. I have tried a couple times, but just like the opening of the story, the way the writing style hasn't really drawn me in. Me and one of the other bridesmaids that were there, we were kind of going back and forth about whether or not we wanted to get it. It was one of the books that we passed as we were leaving, and we were like, oh my gosh, we have to get out of here, we're gonna spend too much money. And we're like, look, it's so pretty, I really want that book. And then I went to go read the description, and this is what made me get it. But when the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna join the suffragists of New Salem, they begin to pursue the forgotten words and ways that might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. It's literally the suffragists movement. I have a family member that was part of the original suffragettes movement here in the United States. If you know who Elizabeth Cady Stanton is, I'm a Stanton on my mom's side, and so that is a important piece of heritage, especially because we live in New York and she lived in New York. That's an important piece of heritage to me and a lot of my family members. So literally anything that has to do with the suffragist movement is an automatic thing for us, because this takes place in 1893. So who knows, maybe Elizabeth Cady Stanton will be in this, but she wasn't in New Salem as far as I know, so she probably won't be. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. Don't know when, because I have a lot of other things that I need to read, but I'm happy that I bought it. The next one is a book that I have been wanting to read, and then kept telling myself I would eventually buy to read it, and then I was like, okay, I'm dragging my feet on buying it, so I may as well just borrow it from the library, and then lo and behold, it was at the library book sale, so why not? I got Lessons in Chemistry. I've watched a bunch of the clips of the Apple TV show that they made with Brie Larson, and all the clips look very, very cool to me. It looks like a character that I would love to relate to. I'm not a woman in STEM, but I probably should have been. There were multiple times during the Bachelorette weekend, because a handful of the women that were there are like nurses or pursuing nursing degrees and stuff. They would talk about medical things, and I would be like keeping pace like I was in school with them, or bring up topics and like find fascination with things that they weren't used to everybody else finding fascination with. And one of the girls was like, you should be a nurse. And I was like, I fully understand, I have the brain for nursing or like a medical degree, but I have like no interest in that pursuit. I just am wired that way, mostly because of my autism. But so I'm excited to read Lessons in Chemistry, because honestly my take from Brie Larson's performance and what I've seen of it is that she is a high-functioning autistic woman who kicks butt, and I'm excited to read it. So hopefully I love it. Otherwise it'll have been a waste of $8.50. Alright, this one I'm pretty sure I grabbed from the used bookstore that used to be a bank, because they had a section that was like writing resources. Wait, was this at that store? I think so. I don't know, I apparently didn't keep track actually. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this one was at the bank one. But, I'm always interested in ways of making my story stronger. This is about fantasy and science fiction, which is my genre. I don't know if I'll ever really dabble into science fiction. I enjoy reading it. I don't know that I can create it, but that would be super cool if I did. But obviously, love fantasy, plan on continuously writing in fantasy. I really want to use tropes, but I am like very hesitant in being intentional about it, I guess. So yeah, I'm hoping that this helps me get over some of my hurdles as far as writing tropes go. Next is a book that I read in high school, and it was a book that like really impacted me in a very strange way. I read it because one of my friends read it, and it was one of my friends that wasn't a very big reader. And she read it and was very fascinated by it. She was trying to like, it's like, give me the Wikipedia plot summary, but Wikipedia wasn't a thing at the time, I guess. She was trying to tell me what she had read of it, and just was very fascinating to me. So I remember going and borrowing it from the library, I believe, not our school library, like the regular public library, and reading it. And then I believe I also reread it like a year or so later. So it was definitely one of the first books that I had reread. I haven't reread it in a very, very, very long time. Not since like 11th grade, if that. Unless I reread it as an adult, which I don't remember doing. But it's called The Rapture of Canaan by Sherry Reynolds. It's about a girl named Nina who is raised in a Southern Baptist cult, essentially. As someone who was raised in a Christian household, but not culty, it was very much like like God was a relational thing, still is to me, and it was very interesting to read a story where religion was being used as a form of control and manipulation, because it wasn't something I knew. I didn't know religion to be that. And so it was very interesting to me to read a story where religion was being used as a form of like manipulation and control. Things in the Bible were being used to further an agenda and those kinds of things. And what it looks like when young teenagers are not taught things and are kind of just given space to figure things out on their own. Yeah, it's very, very cool. To be a little bit spoilery, she ends up pregnant, consensually, sort of, but it's like she didn't know that was what she was doing. She didn't know what it would lead to. There's a good portion of the book has to do with like the falling out of what it looks like to be in that kind of religious space and have something that religious space deems as wrong. Like, what are the consequences of that? What are people going to do in response to that? How are people going to treat you in response to that? This is like a book that I think about a lot, and I've thought a lot recently about either finding it at the library and rereading, or finding on my own and having my own personal copy so I can read it, because I think it's very fascinating. It's a very fascinating conversation around what you teach your kids, whether religion or morals or, you know, sexuality, like whatever it is. Like, you're responsible as a parent for giving them tools and information to make it through life. And if you don't do it, someone else will, or they'll kind of investigate for themselves, and sometimes it's not always the safest option. So yeah, I've talked to a lot of my friends about like how important it is to me and my husband that we just have open communication with our kids, and we don't make weird things taboo that should just be talked about, and not in a like we give them too much information kind of way, but just don't leave certain things to mystery, or don't treat things like we can't talk about them when it's just that they're kind of uncomfortable to talk about. It's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable to talk about it, but if you find a way to talk about it, it's not uncomfortable anymore, and we create a safe space for a conversation. So that was a lot. That was a lot of explanation, but yeah. Rapture of Canaan by Sherry Reynolds. Excellent, excellent book. Okay, the next one that I got is actually the next book in a series that I started reading several years ago and did not continue reading. It had to do with having to read it on my e-reader and having a bit of like a Kindle burnout. If I read too many ebooks in a row, I don't want to look at the screen anymore, and I have to have a physical book. And then I just never made the effort to find the physical book, or maybe like I tried to find it at my library and we didn't have a copy. I don't know, but it is The Icebound Land by John Flanagan. It's part of the Ranger's Apprentice series. I've really enjoyed this series. It's interesting because usually when I talk about reading a fantasy series, I get very critical about if the author is using language and terminology that would not exist in a fantasy setting. There were a lot of times in the other two books, in The Ruins of Gorlin and I believe also The Burning Bridge, there were times when the characters used verbiage that I'm like, that phrase only exists in modern times for a modern occurrence. Like, no one in fantasy would be able to use that expression because it wouldn't make any sense. It just doesn't, it has no context. It has no, foundation to it. Usually that really, really bothers me. And I will DNF a book if it happens too often. I will say, however, that usually has to do with if I'm reading the book and I feel like it is not targeted at children. If it feels like it's targeted at a mid to late teens adult audience, and I'm like, we're intelligent enough to read fantasy without it getting dumbed down, that's when I'm upset by it. This literally feels like it was written for children to read, and not in a disrespectful way, in a digestible way, in a very fun way. It's like we are having fun with the fantasy genre. Feels like it was written for a 12-year-old boy to read, which sometimes that is my taste. I love Star Wars and Skyrim, and I still geek out over Lord of the Rings in very inappropriate situations. And so sometimes I do just want to read something that seems like a 12-year-old boy should be reading it. So I'm hoping I enjoy this and I continue with the series because I really like the first two. I don't know if I still have my first Ranger's Apprentice, but it's not gonna fit next to this one, so I don't know if they'll be able to coexist on the shelf or not. I haven't decided yet. Okay, the next one, I'm a little worried because there's been some controversy around the author, but I got Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. I started reading this book last summer, I think. I borrowed it from my library, and I think I made it halfway through, and I kind of just had to stop because I was getting really tired. It's a very long story. And it can be kind of dull sometimes. I think there's very much a British tone and a British humor to Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman's writing that I don't always follow. And so I kind of have to be in the right pace and the right setting for it. The parts that I did enjoy, I really did enjoy. So I do eventually want to finish the story. And I would love to watch the TV show, but I was kind of trying to finish reading this before watching the TV show, which is not what I always do. Sometimes I'll tandem, I'll do the other one. There's some controversy around Neil Gaiman, and so I bought this at Used Bookstore. So Neil Gaiman technically doesn't get the money for this, that Used Bookstore does. The last one actually was the one that I was the most excited to get, aside from Lessons in Chemistry. I was actually super stoked. That was the first book I saw when I walked in. It was right on a display shelf right next to the door. And I was like, yes, I have to get that. But the other one is this copy of The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, specifically because I own The Fellowship of the Ring and The Two Towers with these covers. The Fellowship of the Ring has Frodo on it, I believe, and then The Two Towers has Gandalf. And I bought them from thrift books. And I had the option of, I think I just bought the first one, and then when it came as the movie book cover, I was like, okay, I guess those are the ones I'm gonna get. So then when I got the second one, I made sure to select that it was the film cover so that way it would match. And then I was like, well, I guess if I bought the first two like that, I have to find the third one with the movie book cover, which, I mean, am I really gonna complain that Viggo Mortensen is on here? Absolutely not. Aragorn is amazing. And so yeah, I'm really stoked to be able to complete this. I do think I still have to get a copy of The Hobbit. I had one. My mom bought me a copy of it for my 17th birthday, because I had asked for it, and now I don't know if I still have it. I mean, if I looked at my shelf, I would see it's on that side though, because that's where my classics are. This is all more current books, and then I have all my classic literature, my books from school that I read in class, like Animal Farm and Huckleberry Finn, books like that. So The Hobbit might be over there if I look, but yeah, I'm so happy that I was able, I think this was like $2. Yeah, I literally bought this for $2. Alright, so that's it for the books that I got while I was in Saratoga and, you know, what we did while we were there. Hopefully this upcoming weekend can record my March-April recap, because I read/DNF'd a good handful of books. I made sure I took notes while I was reading, so I could give you guys a pretty good description and hopefully suggest some of those books to you. What I'm reading right now, I don't know what's in my e-reader right now because, again, I'm having Kindle burnout and I cannot read on that screen because I read too many books in a row on the screen. Instead, I'm reading a physical book, and it is A Fate Inked in Blood. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to talk about this book in depth, but let me just preface with, I've wanted to read this basically since it came out because everybody ranted and raved about it, but I also, because I've been burned too many times by reading a book everybody ranted and raved about, was like, I can't read it because it's not going to be good, and then I'm going to be disappointed because the internet lied to me. They didn't lie, but the great news is the second book comes out in a week! So that means when the book comes out, hopefully I'll be done with this because I'm like halfway through right now. I can go read it and then I won't have to do any real waiting. One of the other bridesmaids, I mean, a lot of us read, so we were all like tossing book information around. But one of the other bridesmaids was like ranting and raving about this. This is one of her favorite authors. And she was like, did you read that? And I was like, no, because I was terrified to read it. But the funny thing was, because I was at the bookstore the other day, my interaction with the guy that rang me out at Barnes & Noble was, he was telling me to read this book because the next book was about to come out. And so I borrowed it from the library on Friday morning, knowing I was going on this bookish weekend. So then when the other bridesmaid was like, have you read A Fate Inked in Blood? I'm like, it's literally on my kitchen counter right now. When I get home, it's waiting for me. So I'm really glad I did that because I've been really, really enjoying it. It's been a really fun read, great banter, interesting story. I will say I'm a little bummed because I'm thinking very clearly while reading it, so there's a lot of foreshadowing things that are happening with the verbiage when characters do things that I'm like, I already know where this is headed, which is a bummer sometimes because then I don't get like the excitement of a surprise that the author wanted to reveal to me at the end, but I'm still enjoying it. Regardless of knowing what's going to happen and kind of seeing things coming. At least I think so. I'm halfway through. Maybe I'll get to the end and be like, guys, I was wrong. We'll see. Who knows? I'm glad I finally got this recorded. I did think for a split second maybe I should just skip it and not post this video. Just leave this week without a video and then just move on to next week's video being the March and April recap. But then it felt kind of weird if I did next week as the March and April recap, and then if I was like, well, I'll just do the book haul in the following week. Like, hey guys, a few weeks ago, I went to Saratoga Springs and here are all the books I got. No, I wouldn't put them on my shelf. So we got it done. We did this video, and now we can move on, put our books on our shelf. It's been really cool, like gloomy, rainy weather here in central New York, so it's like prime reading weather, especially for this kind of story because it's a Viking story set in like Norse mythology, time, place type things, so not really like warm weather reading, definitely cool weather reading. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite thrift store finds have been for you personally. Thank you for hanging out with me while I showed you my things. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye. I messed up last time. Okay. Those are the stars and those are the mountains. That's a quote from A Court of Mist and Fury, because it means a lot to me. I always want to silence my phone, but then if I silence my phone, I get important phone calls. Okay, because we were on our way out. It was one of the that would not oh, excuse me. Let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite thrift store. No, the thrift store is exciting. It's not boring. Okay. If you're on the hunt for any of these books and you're I hate this. I hate this part. Every video is literally the worst.